Hello, I'm Professor Anat Gesser-Edelsburg from the School of Public Health at Haifa University in Israel. I'm happy to present narrative or storytelling as an effective tool for social listening to help manage risk communication and help reach people who are sometimes confused and have questions on health and social measures about COVID. This is based on a paper I wrote called Using Narrative Evidence to Convey Health Information on Social Media, the Case of COVID. During disease outbreaks or pandemics, authorities must convey effective information that will make the public cooperate with the guidelines and lead to behavior change, as we saw during COVID. Authorities are in competition for the public's attention with other sources that sometimes manufacture misinformation. In such a complex multimedia environment, the use of a narrative has advantages. But in reality, policymakers have traditionally adopted a didactic and formalistic attitude by conveying dry, statistic-based health information. They have not yet considered the alternative of providing health information in the form of narrative evidence or storytelling, even though they may be familiar with it. In the next few minutes, I will offer some ways to apply narrative as an effective listening tool in the social media era and propose criteria for evaluating the effectiveness of this kind of a narrative-based campaign. Narrative evidence is constructed in the form of a plot that has a beginning, a middle, and an ending. Narrative or storytelling is the oldest way that human beings have been expressing themselves and describing what is happening around them. Since ancient Greece, rhetoricians have used narrative as a means of persuasion, and playwrights have used it to say something about human existence. In the field of emerging infectious disease communication, there are 7 qualities of narratives which make them effective so that they overcome resistance to advocate health behavior, simplify complex information and make it comprehensible, reach audiences that are less knowledgeable, engage audiences that are less involved, ground messages in the culture and experiences of the target audience, use aesthetic means such as empathy, humor, sarcasm, and irony to convey information, convey diffuse stories via social networks, which generates relationships between people that goes beyond geographic and linguistic borders. When authorities go beyond communicating pandemic-related information in a statistic-based and didactic manner, they often turn to a narrative that reflects the fact that pandemics are difficult and complex events that raise fear, panic, and alarm. The villain of the plot is the virus threatening to destroy humanity, while the good guys, or heroes, are the life-saving medical workers. The narrative also includes characters depicted as disease spreaders, usually from disempowered communities. Moreover, in recent disease outbreaks, health organizations seem to have reinforced this apocalyptic narrative by using strategies of intimidation to make the public follow instructions and guidelines. This can be seen in the language and tone of information delivery. For example, the use of oral language to describe COVID as a cruel enemy that needs to be defeated. One problem with this type of narrative is that using fear appeals without empowering individual self-efficacy runs against the desirable outcomes. As opposed to this apocalyptic narrative, my paper proposes an alternative copy narratives which includes segmenting each subgroup to tailor messages. For example, during COVID, young people between the ages of 18 and 30 without any underlying conditions were at lower risk of serious illness. Therefore, the authorities should have tailored risk messages to particular at-risk groups without resorting to intimidation. Reducing barriers through narrative. One of them was a difficulty in maintaining social distancing. Instead of using intimidation, giving stories how to apply social distancing will have been more effective. Using role models. Positive role models could have demonstrated the advantages of following COVID guidelines. Patients who survived COVID could have shared their experiences and given tips to the public.
Hello everybody, I am one of the unluckiest person in this India जिनको पहले कोरोना वायरस डिटेक्ट हुआ था। अब मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ, 14 दिन का आइसोलेशन था, ट्रीटमेंट था एंड आई एम बैक एट होम, बिल्कुल ठीक, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं। ये वीडियो बनाने का मकसद ये नहीं है कि मैं आपको कोई टोटका बताऊंगा या इलाज बताऊंगा कैसे इसको ठीक करना है, सिर्फ इसलिए वीडियो बना रहा हूँ कि प्लीज डोंट पैनिक।
Leaders could also have served as role models, as did the Prime Minister of New Zealand when she announced a 20% salary cut for herself and the members of her cabinet. Reinforcing collective efficacy through stories that emphasize mutual support. For example, during COVID, civic organizations and individuals could have supported older people under lockdown by helping them obtain food and medicine. Preventing stigmatization. During COVID, the Asian American community expressed strong fears of being blamed for the spread of the disease. Policymakers should have stressed stigma reduction, creating narratives that emphasize social solidarity. Communicating uncertainty through transparent narratives helps reduce negative feelings and increases the public respect for the risk-assessing agencies. For each apocalyptic pandemic narrative, there is an alternative one that offers coping strategies to help health organizations transform one narrative into other, which are detailed in Table 1 in the paper. For example, instead of stigmatization and blame of groups that do not follow guidelines, build solidarity in the community. Launching a social media narrative campaign can be based on either posting personal stories on social networks and distributing them to relevant subgroups via target channels, or using narratives based on preliminary research that identify the public's questions and concerns through narratives evidence posted on social networks. In the paper, I outlined the 5 conditions required for each one, as well as methods and prospective outcomes. Tailor messages for target or behavior change based on the needs and experiences of different subgroups. Refer separately and distinctly to each information unit or theory seen on social networks. Conveying positive feedback regarding the factual parts of different theories based on social networks will give the public a sense of transparency and trust. In contrast, deciding to correct or dismissing entire theories, including the true parts, can generate antagonism, making the public feel its views are being dismissed. Identify positive deviance, highlighting people who found creative solutions for stress during COVID. Create different stories of coping experiences. Maintain a dialogue with skeptical and hesitant groups. The paper also offers criteria for evaluating the effectiveness of a narrative by addressing narrative mechanisms, rhetorical concerns, and empirical questions to evaluate each narrative's potential for change. For example, when dealing with a trust issue, the public's perceptions of the narrative's credibility, we need to ask, how does the public perceive the likelihood, realism, and accuracy of the unfolding narrative? Is the narrative trustworthy, credible? At what stage did the public begin to experience clarification of doubts, new possibilities? And what conditions facilitated this change? What I wanted to achieve in this short presentation was to go beyond endorsing narrative as an effective tool for social listening and give you practical tools that are empathetic and humanistic in managing risk communication campaigns. You are welcome to read more in the paper. Thank you.